What is EV?
I heard that EVs are great, but I don't know much about them. Is it all right to buy one?
Just like this customer says, EVs might be too unfamiliar to when shopping for a car, and the cost might cause one to reconsider.
I'd love to know more about EVs.
We'd be glad to help. We'll let you know more about the details.
First, I'll tell you what's different between an EV and ICE vehicle. ICE vehicles have engine, transmission, fuel tank, and emission system. But EVs are much more simple. They have high voltage battery, motor, and speed reducer. Because EVs don't contain engine or transmission made with complex parts, there are far fewer parts resulting in a much simpler structure.
I see. EVs have significantly fewer parts and a simpler structure. So what are the advantages?
As you can see, the PE room of an EV is rather empty compared to the engine room of an ICE vehicle. Because parts like the motor and speed reducer in an EV are smaller and simpler compared to the engine of an ICE vehicle, you can make better use of the space inside. Moreover, because the heavy high-voltage battery is located on the bottom of the vehicle, the driving performance is much more stable. Now let's compare the powertrain working principles of the two different types of vehicles. ICE vehicles inject fuel and repeatedly move the piston linearly through the cycle of intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust, which is converted into rotational motion by the crankshaft. The force is then transferred to the transmission in order to drive the wheels. This process generates a lot of heat and noise. On the other hand, electric motors use electrical signals to regulate their output. Compared to an engine, this process is very simple and has a much faster response time. It also generates little mechanical vibration or noise. To drive ICE vehicles, transmission changes the gear ratio depending on the situation. High torque when starting or spinning the wheels at high RPM at high speeds. But EVs can freely adjust the torque of the motor by changing the electrical current. So there's no need to change the gear ratio like ICE vehicles. In EVs, a speed reducer is attached to the motor to optimize torque and RPM control at every level of driving. As you can see, there are many differences. But what do you think is the biggest difference between ICE vehicles and EVs?
I'm not sure.
The biggest difference is the charging time. While ICE vehicles have short refueling times, an EV like the Niro, for example, takes 54 minutes on a 400-volt, 100-kilowatt DC charger.
54 minutes? That's too long.
Since it is possible to charge using a home charger, you can save money by charging your car during low-cost, off-peak times like late at night. Also, you can schedule when your car charges itself and makes charging even more convenient. In addition, when the 800-volt Kia EV is released in the future, charging time should be drastically reduced.
Oh, I see. That's quite a relief.
That's right. EVs have the same function as ICE vehicles and are more efficient. They are the car of the future. Moreover, did you know that EVs have no emissions? EVs use the electric energy stored in high-voltage battery, so there is no exhaust gas and no devices like catalytic converters or filters or needed to purify fuel systems and pollutants. In addition, ICE vehicles use engine heat for heating, but EVs don't have engines, so electric heaters are used.
There is so much I didn't know.
It seems like I finally sparked your interest. It looks like there's still a lot that you'd like to know, so why don't we talk about EVs over a cup of tea?
Kia, movement that inspires.